Hello, I'm Ella, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about vegan leather versus real leather. Which is better for the environment? Just doing a bit of a comparison. This is following the rise of vegan, more ethical, more sustainable leathers that have been on the rise in the market recently. And I'm just wanting to debunk how good they actually are for the environment and whether they are a product of a bit of greenwashing or if they're making some improvements. But I just wanted to figure out what the difference was between using a vegan leather and a real leather and what we can best be doing as the ethical and conscious consumer and what's best for our planet. There is the classic age-old saying that leather is more durable, lasts longer, it's more eco-friendly because it's natural, there's no plastic, there's no problems. But I do want to make sure that we are looking at where there may be problems within this system. Is vegan leather perfect? Is normal leather fine? What can we do about each thing? Vegan leather is generally a blanket term for a variation of alternatives. This includes pineapple leaf leather, plastic leather, which is more commonly found in fast fashion brands and the cheaper end of the scale. When you see faux leather, it's usually plastic leather. And I've even discovered some leathers based on bacteria. So there's obviously a lot going on in this industry. So let's think about the production. I've discovered that there are lots of chemicals used in both the production of leather and in the production of vegan leather, but which is using the better chemicals? Leather is animal skins. It's essentially attached to the meat industry. I don't need to sit here and tell you that the meat industry is bad for the environment. We've got a whole community of vegans out here doing that for us. Agriculture requires a lot of water and land to maintain the livestock. As a result, this is causing deforestation. Leather is always going to be a byproduct of this. I'm not 100% certain that there will be so many vegans in the world that the agriculture industry will collapse. I mean, props to the vegans if it does, but I would be very surprised. Farmers would not raise cows just to get the 5% of the cow which makes the leather. The meat industry and leather industry go hand in hand. Using the skins from cows to make leather prevents waste, which if those skins had no value anymore, people were buying vegan leather, the value of leather would probably go down and therefore farmers wouldn't want to prepare the skins to be made into leather. They would probably just burn them or throw them away. Once leather's been made into leather, it's not very easily biodegradable because the whole point of tanning the leather and curing the leather is so that it doesn't decay straight in your wardrobe when you buy it. So while it is a natural material, it's a hard and durable material that probably wouldn't biodegrade very easily. The misconception we need to debunk here is that natural always means biodegradable. Of course, a cotton plant, if you threw it on the ground, it would biodegrade because it's a plant. If you threw a jumper on the ground, that jumper's not just going to disintegrate into the ground. Clothing and shoes and leather products will not be biodegradable. The tanning process is put in place to ensure the leather is long lasting. Workers are exposed to these chemicals on a regular basis. Chemicals such as arsenics, sulfides and acids, all in the water disposed around the areas of the tannery where these workers probably live and collect their water. Arsenic exposure is associated with lung cancer in workers of tanneries. To continue that practice is to continue the poor health of these workers. Let's think about the alternative, vegan leathers. If we're talking about the polyvinyl chloride leather, plastic leather, the production of this starts with oil. These petroleum-based plastic vegan leathers, what a mouthful, contribute to our plastic problem. 70 million barrels of oil are used to make polyester every year. This isn't just for polyvinyl chloride leathers, but it will be used for a lot of areas of the fashion industry. Even some plastic-free vegan leathers use petroleum-based products in the mix of their production. While it is significantly less than the just straight-up PVC plasticky leather, there is still elements of plastic being used within the vegan leather which aren't being used in the leather industry. An example of this is the Pinatex, which is a pineapple leaf fibre used to make hard and durable leathers. It's made up of 80% pineapple leaves and 20% polylactic acid. On the Pinatex website, they said their products are not biodegradable. They can only be biodegradable in industry level conditions. While they mentioned this as an option, there was nowhere on their website to suggest they would offer this industry level biodegradable system. So ultimately they're just producing these more natural products which can't biodegrade. While obviously it's great that the product is majority made of natural fibres, That's a more renewable source in itself. We can keep growing more and more plants. Pinatex solves the problem that is excessive plastic-based textiles, but it hasn't solved the problem of fashion and textile waste. There are a lot of different names for vegan leathers, and I could go into depth about each and every one of them, but they're all very different, and I don't think any of them are perfect, but they are a step in the right direction. Now let's think about the environmental impact of vegan leather versus leather. There are 4 environmental factors that we need to consider. The first of these impacts is water scarcity, which is a wider environmental issue that we are going to be facing in the next few decades. I'm going to be using some graphs from the same study, which use a comparison of different kinds of fabrics to determine environmental impact. For water scarcity, cotton is at the top of the list, but cow leather does come close behind. According to this study, the magnitude of the impact of water is very high in comparison to other environmental factors. This includes the choice of materials, whether they are high water consumption plants, or the amount of water required to raise the agriculture. Water can also be used throughout the production process. So while the vegan leather doesn't primarily use water, it probably does use water at some point in its system. It's about whether the production causes contamination of this water and therefore makes it toxic to the environment and human beings. According to the US Environmental Protection Agency, livestock pollution is a threat to our waterways. I found a study of a river in Albania where they tested the water in the river next to the tannery. Within this list of chemicals that they found, they picked up chromium-6, which is a toxic human carcinogenic, and also they picked up ammonia, which actually has the potential to kill aquatic life if it is in the water in high enough levels. Chromium pollution is a worldwide issue, and there are many countries across the world which are facing this as a threat. There are different levels of population which are at risk for chromium pollution in their waterways. The environmental problem which came out on top for cow leather was eutrophication, which is the excess of nutrients in waterways. Something to note here is that synthetic leather does note pretty midway in a lot of these problems, and it's above cow leather in resource depletion, which is purely based on the fact that if it's synthetic, it's probably made from plastic and therefore it requires fossil fuels, which are a finite resource. If we take a look at this graph, which compares all of the textiles in comparison to all the environmental problems, cow leather does come on top. But the environmental impact isn't just about the production process. We also have to consider what happens to the product once it's been used properly. The nature of the tanning process stabilises the collagen and protein fibres within the leather to stop them from biodegrading. We would require some kind of biodegradability testing to compare the difference between vegan leather and leather in terms of biodegradability, but I'm not sure that that's really the problem we need to be facing here. Could leather be more easily recycled because it's generally made up of one material versus the vegan leather, which is a combination of products? It's about trying to find a permanent solution for leather and leather-like production. While real leather has its problems, are we simply creating more of a problem by creating an entire industry dedicated to creating fake leathers when we could just be almost hopping on the train of the meat industry which exists already? Neither of these options are perfect, but then of course we have to consider animal agriculture accounts for 18% of worldwide emissions. Do we need to add on an additional industry just to combat the ethics on this side? There are a lot of environmental solutions that are being discussed. One of these companies is the Leather Working Group, which is an EU-based company. They complete audits for manufacturers and make sure that they're using non-harmful chemicals and ensuring that their waste is managed. But this only seems to solve the problem of environmental impact when regarding production. It doesn't necessarily regard the environmental impact of the agricultural industry as a standalone thing. If this process is going to continue, it is important that we consider the environmental impacts of this process. If leather industry is going to carry on, we should be making it better. Another example of this is a brand called Nisolo, who are basically using vegetable tanning processes to replicate the chemical process and therefore reduce the amount of chemicals going into our environment. They're a brand that's actually taking up the problem of leather tanning and trying to make a solution out of that rather than just simply switching to faux leather. However, is the initial production of cows ever going to be a sustainable practice, especially when it's done on such a mass scale? But what can we do as the consumer? Is the longevity of real leather the most sustainable option because we are only buying one pair of boots versus buying 3 pairs of faux leather boots that only last us a year at a time? Surely by buying and consuming less, this reduces our environmental impact and may reduce the demand for these products to be made. Buying second-hand leather is potentially one of the better options in this. There's plenty of leather products that have already been produced and are just sat around in people's wardrobes. We need to be choosing the option that already exists rather than creating more demand for more products. This could look like buying from Depop or buying from a charity shop instead of buying new. Obviously, this isn't feasible for everybody. It's just an option to consider if you're thinking about how you can best be the most sustainable. I'm a big believer in saying that the most sustainable option is to wear what you already own, but I'm not going to stop you from doing what you're going to do. So in terms of which is probably better for the environment, I would probably say that vegan leathers are the better option. However, I'm not sure that it is the solution. And actually, if the meat industry is going to pursue in producing meat and producing leather, why would we not use that product? Of course, there are many vegans who wouldn't want to support leather industry for ethical reasons, but if you're a vegan for environmental reasons and you're buying plastic-based leathers, I would like to kind of question why you're doing that. Thank you for watching. I hope that was a little bit interesting for you. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'm going to be making more videos like this. I just posted a video about fast fashion and the impact on workers. I'm going to be doing a series on fast fashion and the impacts and how that impacts the environment, how that impacts workers, as well as just various other videos about sustainability, zero waste living, and reducing our consumption. Subscribe, make sure you do. I've been trying to post videos every Sunday, so keep an eye out for those. Like the video if you haven't already, and leave a comment below. What do you think? Do you buy vegan leather? Do you buy real leather? Thanks for watching and hope you have an amazing day. Bye!